for joining me again for another Pixie Talks review vlog.
Pixie Talks, reviews and vlogs at Pixie Talks. Pixie Talks, reviews and vlogs at Pixie Talks.
Woo! This week I'm going to talk about something a little near and dear to my heart. There is an absolutely beautiful French children's book called Le Petit Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it had a rather big impact on my childhood as well as my adulthood. There have been various different adaptations of it over the years, including a children's anime that I watched when I was very, very young. But more recently, a French stop-motion CGI film has been released based on the book, and I've been so very, very excited to talk about it. So this is The Little Prince. Now, this is not a straight-up adaptation. It functions more like a sequel, taking place years and years after the events of The Little Prince. The pilot narrator from the book is a character in the story of a little girl whose mother has raised her to be the perfect little grown-up. All of her life is planned and scheduled down to the smallest increment, because grown-ups love numbers and schedules, you know? The Little Prince is a beautiful and whimsical tale about a prince from a tiny asteroid planet who travels the stars in search of wisdom and eventually comes to Earth and meets a pilot crashed and stranded in the Sahara Desert. It's a highly philosophical story that muses about childhood, adulthood, and some of the ways that we lose wisdom as we grow older. These gems of wisdom are then passed on to the little girl in the movie who has been bereft of a childhood and the joys of life. She gradually discovers the magic of life in childhood as she befriends the old pilot who tells her the Little Prince's story. It's very slice of lifey as it follows the girl's journey to embracing childhood, as well as dealing with some more adult topics like grief and loss. I thought it handled these topics beautifully, interspersing with various stop-motion scenes right out of the Little Prince novel. Now, the one thing that didn't really work very well for me was bringing the Little Prince himself into her story as a character, exploring what happened to him after the events of the book. The Little Prince is meant to be a symbol, an icon, not necessarily somebody who can change and grow. He is a metaphor, not a person, and so his continued story in this kind of felt like it missed the point of the book. But it was used rather beautifully as a part of the emotional journey of the little girl, so I kind of give it a pass. As far as the animation goes, this movie absolutely stuns. The sequences in the life of the little girl and her world are all done in a lovely CGI style that is as vibrant as it is well rendered. It's not Pixar fare or anything, but it has its own unique sort of charm. But where the film really shines is in all of its depictions of the Little Prince scenes, where it switches to stop motion. The stop motion sequences are gorgeously stunning, giving it that whimsical charm that really echoes the illustrations in the original book. It is beautiful and almost haunting, so bravo to the artists who lovingly crafted this visual spectacle. If you haven't read the book, I highly recommend doing so before you watch this movie. It's just a small little novella that won't take you a long time to breeze through, but I think you'll find that its concepts and philosophies end up occupying your mind for well long after you've finished with it. This movie kind of extends and extrapolates on a lot of those concepts, and it's a charming tale of childhood and loss. Although I'm not sure that it always manages to understand the concepts that it's taking from the book. For instance, the men on the small planets were not necessarily meant to be evil, just lost and kind of silly. But it does manage to take a really interesting look into the heart of an old classic fable. So it is well worth the watch if you'd like to revisit some of the wisdom of childhood. And that's it for my review of The Little Prince. Please be sure to subscribe for more. You can add me on Facebook and Twitter. And with that, I will see you next time for my thoughts on The Night Manager. Bye!